Everybody, welcome to another live training. Today we are talking about pregnancy loss and miscarriage. So if that is not a topic you wish to hear about, please make sure that you reach out to the Pink Elephant Support Network and also just chat to your GP and make sure you're getting enough psychology support and all that good stuff, because it is truly a very difficult thing to experience in your life, and it's very hard to hear about it sometimes if you're in the thick of it. So we hear you and we want to talk about it, because just because it's difficult to talk about doesn't mean we shouldn't be talking about it. So I'll just let Candice know. I think she's trying to sign in with her personal account. Candice, do you want to hop over to your fertility account and then we can add you on? So Candice at the Dietologist has a special interest in supporting people who are experiencing pregnancy loss and miscarriage, and we are going to be talking about actually that period immediately after pregnancy loss and what you can do to focus on renourishing yourself as an act of self-care, but also for many people who want to try to conceive again. So let's get Candice on to as possible. Thanks for joining, everyone. Great to see you all here, joining us live in the middle of the day. Appreciate it. Hello, hello, hello. All right, let's see how we go. I've hit accept. I've hit go live. Let's see if it plays ball, hey? Does this every time. To join. Sorry, everybody. Let's do it this way. See if Candice can respond to it and then it behaves. Let's see how we go. No? Okay. Well, whilst that sorts itself out, as it does, as it always does, I wanted to talk briefly about some of the statistics around pregnancy loss. So 1 in 4 pregnancies will end in a miscarriage, and about 2 to 5% of people will experience what is termed a recurrent miscarriage, which is different definitions, but usually between 2 to 3 consecutive pregnancy losses. So the period immediately after is often a time where people are searching for answers and also wanting that additional support, and nutrition can play a role in it. I'm still pressing accept the invite, but it's not playing ball. Sorry, everybody. Did it just fine last week, but this week is having a moment. The old Instagram go live. Literally just incessantly press the button. Hey, Candice, do you want to hop out and hop back in again? And then we'll see if we can make it happen for us. Always takes a few minutes before it plays ball. Sorry, everyone. Just leaving you hanging. Didn't get any requests come up, so I jumped out and went back in. I'll keep going out and in. Yeah, okay, weird. Cancel invite. All right. We'll give it another couple of minutes. Set. Go live. Is happening. You go live. There's any Instagram gurus who watch this or work in marketing or something and know why this might be the case every time I go live. Please let me know because it drives me nuts every single time we go live. It says Candace unable to join. Let's invite again. So frustrating. It always gets there in the end, but it takes like 67 attempts to get Candace on the live. Just drives me nuts. Thanks for joining, everybody. Hopefully, we'll be up and running shortly. How good's technology? I love technology. I'm a big fan. I'm not the like, oh, technology, but like, it has its moments. It truly, truly does. All right. Oh man, I'm losing, I'm losing, I'm losing hope that it's going to work. I'm just sending Candice a message on our internal channels about the issue, seeing what's coming up on her side of the fence, but maybe not much. When I click accept on your invite, nothing happens. Yeah, it's the same when I accept your invite, nothing happens too. Oh, dear. Oh my God.
We made it. I think that was the most attempts we've ever had to do that.
I feel like I pressed the accept button like 100 times, not even exaggerating.
I know, it's just crazy, isn't it?
Oh, I'm gonna have to ask. We'll ask our we work with Jam Packed Agency who do some of our social media and Google Ads. I'll have to send them a message because it's not right. I know. It doesn't happen with Kay. It's only ever us two. I wonder what that is. Yeah.
Just me.
I don't know. Anyway, you're here. Welcome.
Yes.
In case you've joined since my little intro, just to recap that, today we're obviously talking about pregnancy loss and the focus on nourishing your body after a pregnancy loss, whether that be in anticipation of trying to conceive again or not. So obviously, content warning, we are going to be talking about pregnancy loss. If that's not a topic that you want to hear about right now, please reach out to the Pink Elephant Support Network, who do incredible work in this space of pregnancy loss of all kinds, who can provide some support, and of course reach out to your GP and psychologist. So Candice, I briefly talked about the stats of 1 in 4 pregnancies ending in pregnancy loss, and the estimate of 2 to 5% of people fall into a category of recurrent miscarriage. How, like, from a medical standpoint, how is miscarriage medically managed typically, and how does that then affect people's physical body in the immediate aftermath of a pregnancy loss?
Yeah, so I guess there's quite a few different routes, I guess, that can occur just depending on when your miscarriage is picked up and how it transpires, I guess. So we might have a natural, what they would call a natural miscarriage, where things just terminate on their own. And then if that isn't happening, and maybe we're picking up on ultrasounds that there's babies doesn't have a heartbeat, or baby's not developing the way that they're meant to, or whatever it might be, that's picked up along the way, we might have what they term the miscarriage, I guess. This is when you'll then be offered some opportunities for some intervention. And so typically the 3 things that you will be offered are to just wait it out and await sort of your natural miscarriage. And I think there's pros and cons to every option, and it is going to be different for each individual, what is going to be suitable for them. There is the option usually where we can take a tablet or a medication to induce the miscarriage for you, and so that allows you to go through that in your own environment as well. Or we have the option of having a D&C, where you'll go into a surgery in a hospital to have that procedure done for you as well. So I think no option is a good option, unfortunately. And having sat in the chair myself and being given those options and having to make that choice, like there's no right or wrong answer. It's got to be what's right for you. And if you have a partner, being able to talk to them about what they think and what's going to give you the best support through all of that as well. And it takes a big emotional toll, certainly, no matter which route that you choose. And I think it's important to get all of the support that you need, no matter which route you go down. And if we do look into like having a surgery done, then obviously that's got a little bit more to do from a medical standpoint as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are some of the nutritional considerations? Obviously, nutrition is not top of mind in this
No.
immediate time period, and it's not a time that I would, advocate for people to reach out for support. But naturally, people do often ask, even in Q&As and things like that, like, is there anything that I can prioritize? I'm recovering from, a D&C, or I've had a pregnancy loss and I'm in this immediate, recovery period physically and mentally. What can I be doing from a nutrition standpoint? So what would be your key, nutrients or foods or food groups to be focusing on in that period immediately after pregnancy loss?
Yes, I think probably the one that's top of mind is usually looking at things like your iron levels. There is often a fairly significant blood loss that comes with having a miscarriage, and so we can be quite low in iron post all of that, so making sure that we replenish that. And if you're planning to try to conceive again, then that's certainly something that we want to have optimized before you do try again, ideally, or just make sure that we have a plan in place for that. So certainly looking at iron rich foods in your diet being a really important one, making sure we're eating those iron rich foods. So obviously we've got our protein based lean red meats and those types of things that are going to be really important there. And then if we're looking at more of our vegetarian sources of iron, then we want to be pairing them with vitamin C rich foods and those types of things as well. So that's certainly really important. We also look at things like our folate as well. So depending on what treatments they've used in your miscarriage, you might have a risk of having a low folate in the months afterwards. And obviously if you're trying to conceive again, we know folate's one of those real key essential nutrients in the very early stages of pregnancy that we need. So certainly eating lots of folate rich foods being super important. B12 is another one that we look at as well, so making sure that we're getting adequate B12 in, not just from a dietary point of view, but I think we might also be needing to look at, well, what supplements are we taking if we're trying to conceive again? I think that's something that we need to consider. And for some women post having a miscarriage, you might be going off all your supplements because it's just a reminder and you don't want to do that. And so these are the sort of conversations we want to have with people is, if that's what you need, then that's all right, let's take that time. But then, let's think about, well, what are the plans? Are you going to be trying to conceive again? If you're not, that's okay. Let's just look at, letting your body heal, letting your body recover. But if you are, then we might be prioritizing that nutrition a little bit quicker, just to make sure you don't set up for better outcomes in the future as well.
Yeah, and I think a really important note to add to this conversation is, pregnancy loss in our minds, typically we're thinking about early pregnancy losses in trimester 1, but a pregnancy loss can occur at, we're talking about it in the full spectrum of an entire gestation of pregnancy. And so if you've, gotten into second or third trimesters and have faced a pregnancy loss at that time point, your nutrition stores can be more depleted. You may have obviously gained weight associated with that pregnancy, and you almost need a period of postpartum in that regard, because technically you are postpartum, which is really tricky to navigate. And I find a lot of clients that I've helped support through, quote unquote, later pregnancy losses, this real desire to just like get me back to baseline as quickly as possible because, I need to feel some kind of normality again. And also I want to be prepared to try again, which is often the intensity of the desire to be pregnant again. It actually really increases for a lot of people, not everybody, but certainly something I've just clinically observed. Like just like you wouldn't expect somebody with a newborn baby to just go back to, their normal life of
No.
exercising and eating the same and then layer on top things like grief and facing a pregnancy loss. It's
Yeah.
not practical to have that expectation of yourself. So a lot of the conversations I have with clients in this space is like the importance of giving yourself a little bit of time,
Yeah.
irrespective of the goals, like because I think it's appropriate to not expect your body to go back. And we now have this cool research about how the uterus remembers each pregnancy. It's got a memory. So even if you have an early pregnancy loss or not, that your uterus is actually remembering what's happened, which is like really awesome to know that this kind of research is being done.
Yeah.
My other question, which I had for you that has slipped my mind, so I'm going to check my notes here, is what are some of the like consequences, I guess, of the grief of a pregnancy loss and how that can impact nutrient intake? Because I think, we expect to talk about nutrients like folate and B12 and iron and all those kind of blood building things for things like bleeding and so on and common nutrient stores. But often we find that people tend to change their eating patterns after a pregnancy loss. So can you walk us through some of those common ones and what we might be able to do to support them through that?
Yeah, look, I think depending on how people cope with emotional stress, we tend to see the people that stop eating and then the people that will emotionally eat. And so it usually goes sort of one of the two pathways. So there's those people that, when they're feeling stressed, when they're feeling anxious, when they're upset, they just lose their appetite and they no longer feel like eating their regular meals. And so it's looking at, well, how do we support people to make sure that they're getting their baseline nutrition in while they are dealing with this grief as well. And then I guess we've got the people that maybe they're going to be more of those emotional eaters. And so people might, go to those comfort foods. So it can be the chocolate, it can be the wine because you weren't allowed to have that while you were pregnant, those types of things. So it's really just looking at, well, how do we support people to feel better, maybe without utilizing food as the thing that they're using for that comfort as well. So what are some other strategies that are going to actually help in that sphere for them?
Yeah, and I think that's the benefit of linking in with more than one professional if you've got the opportunity to. It's more than a one person job to support someone. You always hear that saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to make a child as well. And I think it definitely takes a village to, prop up a individual or a couple who is facing a pregnancy loss as well. And I think in talking about in wider society about how common miscarriage is and people like yourself even sharing the fact that that's something you've experienced and we're seeing more and more now in social media and general media, which is great. It's normalizing it so people feel hopefully less alone. But in that normalization, I think to a degree, there's this like, oh, well, a lot of people who go through this, I'll just carry on kind of mentality, and they don't reach out for support. And I think that's like the kind of not the downside, but a potential issue with the kind of normalization of pregnancy loss. And so I think, like the importance of noticing those things in yourself. And if you do feel like you need support, then reaching out is so, so important.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I haven't missed anything. So the other thing I was going to talk about is the time period after a pregnancy loss to those who desire to get pregnant again. What's the general consensus? Obviously, it's more of a medical
Yeah.
thing, and then factoring in things like, our general preconception nutrition, our prenatal vitamin. How does that all fit in?
Yeah, so I guess your doctors will give you sort of a bit of a green light depending on what's happened, what the reasons might have been for your miscarriage, etc. So we do get guided by what your doctors are saying on that front. But sometimes you'll be told you're good to go again straight away. And you might not be for that from an emotional point of view. You might have stopped taking your prenatal supplements. You could still have been experiencing morning sickness and not eating optimally throughout that first trimester, early pregnancy loss. And so your nutrient status can certainly be depleted and certainly not optimal if you are trying to straight away. So we do ideally like to have that 3-month period preconception to optimize everything. And some people feel like they don't necessarily have that time. So those people, we're encouraging them to really focus on these lifestyle factors as quickly as they're able to, and sometimes they're able to turn that around really quickly because we get I'm ready to go again. People coming through all the time. But then there are people that are like, no, I want to stop and I want to reset and I want to get this right before I try again. And then we would generally be looking at, well, let's make sure we've got that 3-month window where we're looking at both male and female. I think that's really important because we talk a lot about the female here, but we know that a lot of I think that 50% of miscarriages are related to male factor things as well. So it's really important that we're looking at optimizing both the male and the female diet, lifestyle, supplements, everything that's really important in that space for that 3 months leading up to trying again is what we're ideally looking for.
Had a few people in the last 12 months especially who've had agonizingly long tales of a pregnancy loss, as in, the event of the pregnancy loss has technically occurred, but their HCG or that pregnancy hormone just isn't really leaving the bloodstream. And sometimes it can take weeks and months to track back down. And in those cases, sometimes your doctor may recommend to not try to conceive actively because there's already some pregnancy hormone in the system, so that may not be optimal in terms of your likelihood of ovulating again on your own and so on. So there are certainly cases where some, doctors may recommend not to go ahead right away, but there used to be this really old school mentality of everyone shouldn't try again after a pregnancy loss, but they've updated that recommendation, and there's actually quite a high likelihood that you will have a live birth in terms of research, a baby in your arms very soon after a pregnancy loss, and it can sometimes be a time of almost like increased fertility in a way. But I think as well that puts a lot of pressure on the people who maybe don't feel mentally or physically ready to try again, and that's okay too. And I think that's a really important message, is that if you do feel ready, then great, get the things that you need to get into order. And if you don't feel ready, take that pressure off yourself, give yourself a bit of a break. Maybe you need to mentally dissociate from some of the preparations and hit pause on a few things, and that's okay too. But actually communicating that with people like us as fertility dietitians, there's no judgment from us, and we're there to support you no matter what decisions you choose to make. So, but we can then give you like an expectation of, okay, we're going to give ourselves, 6 months, and cool, that's fine. In 3 months' time, we'd ideally like to see you commencing A, B, C, D, and E. Is that okay? And then having those kinds of conversations. And so that's really important. What would be one key thing that you'd like to leave our audience with? Because I already know this live's going to be super popular if they make it through the first 8 minutes of us trying to,
trying to connect.
get on. But what would be your words of advice to someone who's listening, who's experienced a pregnancy loss, or is supporting someone through a pregnancy loss in terms of either nourishing yourself post or just in general?
Yeah, I think it's important for women to look after themselves the way that they feel is going to best suit them. So it's thinking about what your needs are. Quite often we take into account everybody else's needs, but I think it's a really important time to prioritize yourself, think about what you want and what your goals are for the future, and then take the steps that are going to put you in that right direction as well. And get external support for that if you need to, and it might be family, friends, partner, it might be health professionals, but it is just making sure you've got that support to really look after yourself.
Yeah. A common time we see people withdraw, like we'll often get people who will, cancel an upcoming appointment because they've faced a pregnancy loss. And like we're totally understanding of that. But I often say to people, and I think we said similar in our hyperemesis live that we did a month or so ago, when things are hard, that's actually the time we want to see you the most. Because that's usually when things are more likely to be a little bit more pear-shaped, and you'll need a little bit more reassurance. You'll need some more creative strategies to actually help support you in that way. So yeah, like if things are hard, sometimes that's actually the best time to get support, rather than when things are all peachy. But yeah, we're here for even the stuff that, people don't want to talk about, or, you may not be sharing with your friends or your family or whatever. Often we're the people that are on that list of people, your partner, maybe your doctor or your OB or your gynecologist, and then we're kind of in that list of people that are in on those things, and we're honoured to be part of that, but we're here for the good and the not so good as well, and here to guide you through. Thank you, Candice, for joining us. If anybody would like some one-on-one nutrition support from the fabulous Candice, she has a particular soft spot for pregnancy loss and supporting people after pregnancy loss and preparing for trying to conceive again. So if you'd like to chat to Candice in a discovery call, then please leave a comment on this recording, or if you prefer to send us a message, then please just send us a message and we can have a chat and get you connected with Candice. Thanks again, Candice. Appreciate your patience on the jump, and we'll be back again next week with another topic, I'm sure.
See you later,
everyone.